London, the capital of the United Kingdom, stands as one of the wealthiest cities globally, boasting an economy surpassing $500 billion. This economic prowess ranks it alongside nations like Norway. For nearly 2 centuries, London has been a financial hub, offering high-wage opportunities in finance and other high-value services, not just in Britain, but across Europe. However, beneath this facade of affluence lies a stark reality. By 2023, London's councils estimated that over 1 in 50 residents faced homelessness, a figure up by more than 50% in a decade, marking the highest level in the developed world. Concurrently, real wages have stagnated for over 15 years, leaving people earning similar incomes to those of 2008, while the costs of living, especially housing, have soared. This economic stagnation and rising inequality are driving a significant emigration trend among skilled workers. Young professionals find better financial prospects abroad, with cities like New York offering double the salaries of London and only marginally higher living costs. The exodus extends beyond finance. Even Britain's prized National Health Service faces an exodus of doctors and nurses due to poor pay and working conditions. Paradoxically, while skilled Britons leave, the UK sees a growing influx of immigrants, primarily drawn by its world-leading education system. Yet, studies indicate that departing individuals tend to be more skilled than those arriving, contributing to an imbalance that reduces overall workforce productivity and service quality. The underlying reasons for this exodus reflect a decline in living standards. Despite its wealth, Britain's economic policies have failed to uplift the majority, perpetuating stagnant wages and soaring living costs. This socio-economic imbalance not only drives skilled emigration, but also exacerbates the influx of low-skilled workers, impacting overall productivity and service quality negatively. The main reason cited for British citizens leaving the country is the economic decline, particularly outside of London. London's economic output and population contribute significantly to British living standards. Without them, the UK's economic performance would drop below that of Mississippi, the lowest-ranking US state economically. This trend reflects a broader sentiment that the UK's best economic days are in the past, supported by data showing a widening gap in living standards compared to Northwestern Europe. Since 2007, the average UK household has seen its economic well-being fall drastically compared to its European counterparts. What was an 8% gap in 2007 has widened to 20% by recent estimates, with projections suggesting Slovenian and Polish households will surpass British standards soon. This disparity hits lower-income groups hardest, exacerbating inequality. While the UK's top earners rank well, the average household and the poorest 5% lag behind significantly. This economic stagnation coincides with a decline in public services and skilled workforce availability in the UK, despite it historically being a top destination for skilled talent worldwide. Recent polls show a strong nostalgic sentiment among Britons for the economic prosperity of the 1990s and early 2000s. A period marked by cultural milestones, like the rise of bands like Oasis and global optimism following the Cold War's end. The 1990s were indeed a prosperous era for Britain, characterized by robust economic growth following initial turbulence from the ERM fallout and recession. Structural reforms, effective monetary policies, and favorable global conditions propelled the UK into its longest period of uninterrupted growth since World War II. The financial sector played a crucial role in driving consumer spending and investment through substantial credit expansion, particularly in property lending. However, regulatory changes and ongoing economic shifts have diminished Britain's attractiveness as an economic hub. The country's net income from abroad has waned, impacting investment appeal. This economic decline contrasts sharply with the optimism and growth of past decades, contributing to the current sentiment that the UK's economic prowess is fading. Click the bell icon to receive notifications, so you never miss an update on the latest developments in economics and infrastructure. In the 2000s, Britain shifted towards a service-based economy, which, while prosperous, failed to provide the widespread employment seen in the industrial sector. This transition led to job losses, particularly in heavy industry and mining, primarily located in poorer regions outside major cities like London. Despite overall economic growth, by the mid-2000s, underlying issues had become evident. The 2008 financial crisis highlighted Britain's over-reliance on financial services and its insufficient investment in other critical sectors. This structural imbalance exposed vulnerabilities in the economic model, contributing to ongoing challenges in achieving balanced and inclusive growth across the country. Housing. In contemporary Britain, several pressing issues dominate public concern, reflecting systemic challenges that require immediate attention to ensure a sustainable future. Foremost among these issues is the housing crisis, which has reached critical levels. Insufficient housing supply coupled with soaring prices has rendered homeownership nearly unattainable for many first-time buyers without substantial incomes or financial assistance from family, a phenomenon often referred to as the bank of mom and dad. The root of this crisis traces back to decades of inadequate home construction relative to population growth, especially compared to benchmarks set by other developed nations. Restrictive planning laws, insufficient government funding for public housing, and the prioritization of other economic sectors over residential development have compounded the problem. This imbalance between supply and demand has created a fiercely competitive housing market, where prices continue to rise beyond the reach of average earners. A pivotal policy contributing to this situation was the Right to Buy scheme introduced in the late 1970s. Initially lauded for democratizing homeownership by allowing public housing tenants to purchase their homes at discounted rates, it inadvertently diminished the stock of social housing. Insufficient replacement of these sold units failed to keep pace with demand, exacerbating housing scarcity over time. Today, these issues converge with broader challenges in the UK, such as an overstretched National Health Service, NHS, struggling to meet increasing healthcare demands amidst budget constraints. Additionally, the nation faces significant infrastructure aging, requiring substantial investments for modernization and resilience against future challenges. Addressing these multifaceted issues demands strategic policy interventions aimed at boosting housing supply through reforms in planning regulations, increased public investment in affordable housing, and initiatives to rejuvenate social housing stock. Furthermore, comprehensive healthcare reform and infrastructure revitalization efforts are crucial to enhancing quality of life and sustaining economic growth. The urgency of these challenges underscores the need for proactive, coordinated action from policymakers, stakeholders, and communities alike. By prioritizing sustainable solutions and equitable development, Britain can strive towards a future where all its residents have access to affordable housing, reliable health care, and modern infrastructure, a foundation for a prosperous and resilient society. Since the 1970s, the social housing sector in the UK has contracted significantly, shrinking by approximately 25%. Meanwhile, the population has continued to grow, exacerbating the shortage of affordable housing. This imbalance has forced more individuals and families into the private rental sector, driving up rents due to insufficient supply meeting increasing demand. As a result, those with lower incomes struggle to find affordable options and often face intense competition for limited housing. Compounding this issue, house prices have consistently outpaced real wages for over 3 decades, deepening societal divides between homeowners and renters. In England alone, the number of households in social housing has decreased by 1.4 million since 1980, contributing to rising inequality as measured by the Gini coefficient. The housing crisis has also led to overcrowding, both in private rentals and remaining social housing, with many households experiencing unstable living conditions. A significant consequence of this crisis is homelessness, which has grown substantially. While often less visible, the number of households in temporary accommodation in England has more than doubled from 48,000 to 112,000 between 2010 and 2023, marking the highest figure in recorded history. Conditions in such accommodations are typically poor, marked by issues like dampness, mold, and infestations, exacerbating health problems and disrupting lives. This instability further hampers social mobility as affected adults struggle to maintain employment and children face disruptions in their education. The financial burden on local councils has also surged, with emergency shelter costs exceeding £1.8 billion annually. This escalation underscores the inadequacy of current housing policies and the urgent need for reform. Several factors have contributed to this crisis: insufficient rates of new house building, the decline of the social housing sector, and reduced financial support for those unable to afford market rents. These issues are compounded by broader economic trends such as stagnant wages and soaring asset values, which disproportionately disadvantage younger generations. Unlike older individuals who often own multiple properties, younger adults are more likely to rent, limiting their ability to accumulate wealth and perpetuating economic disparities. Moreover, these challenges reflect a broader economic stagnation in the UK, where younger generations face diminished prospects compared to their predecessors. Economic growth has slowed, impacting career opportunities and earnings potential, particularly during crucial early career stages. Consequently, many talented individuals are leaving the UK in search of better economic opportunities and quality of life elsewhere. Countries like the US, Australia, and New Zealand are increasingly attractive destinations for ambitious British workers seeking better prospects. Since the financial crisis of 2008, the UK has experienced a stark slowdown in productivity growth, which previously averaged around 2% annually. This decline has been accompanied by a significant reduction in investment compared to other OECD countries like the US, France, and Germany. UK companies have invested 20% less since 2005, leading to outdated technology, reduced innovation, and inadequate skill development across industrial and service sectors. This underinvestment has hampered the overall efficiency and innovative capacity of the UK economy. One glaring example of the impact of this productivity slowdown is evident in the UK's National Health Service, NHS, established in 1948 as a publicly funded healthcare service. Initially praised for its accessibility and quality, the NHS has faced mounting challenges over the years. As the UK's population has grown older and larger, the NHS has struggled to cope with rising costs and increasing demand. Despite a rise in funding and staffing levels since 2019, NHS resources are stretched thin, leading to longer waiting times and lower survival rates for major health issues compared to other developed nations. The NHS's financial burden has been exacerbated by health inflation, which includes rising medical technology costs, expensive treatments, and increasing staff wages amid rampant inflation. While funding has increased by 11% in real terms since 2019, much of it has gone toward covering operational costs rather than long-term infrastructure investments. This underinvestment not only hampers the NHS's ability to improve service quality, but also reflects a broader pattern of inadequate infrastructure spending across various UK sectors, including transportation and public services. For instance, the HS2 high-speed rail project, aimed at better connecting North and South England, faced significant delays and cost overruns before being abandoned in 2023. Such inefficiencies highlight systemic issues in UK infrastructure development, where projects become excessively costly and time-consuming compared to international standards. Brexit has added another layer of economic strain. While the decision to leave the EU in 2016 has impacted trade and economic relations, it is not solely responsible for the UK's current economic challenges. These include a brain drain crisis driven by factors such as limited opportunities and a desire for better living standards, which have led skilled workers to seek opportunities abroad. Looking back, the UK's focus on short-term economic gains during the 1990s often came at the expense of long-term infrastructure planning and investment. Privatization efforts aimed at boosting infrastructure often led to underinvestment as private companies prioritized profit maximization over long-term improvements. Despite potential shifts in government policies following general elections, the outlook remains uncertain. Addressing these deep-rooted issues requires comprehensive reforms to boost productivity, increase infrastructure investment, and enhance public services like the NHS. Without such reforms, the UK risks prolonged economic stagnation and continued challenges in maintaining quality public services and infrastructure development. If you found this video informative, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more updates on how we can tackle these pressing issues together.